Oh gosh, I hate technology. I hate computers. They fucking suck.
It's
Nothing,
happening over there, bud.
nothing works. Nothing works. Everything's taking forever. Like, am I connected to the internet? Yes. Am I loud? Am I soft? Is there an echo? My browser's loading for some reason. Stop loading. Give me what I need. Oh, I realize it's because I'm not using the right keyboard because I've got like three laptops stacked on top of each other. I've got two keyboards. I've got a mouse and a half, and cords all over the damn place. It's a
You've
disaster.
got all this technology and none of it's working.
It's like half user error and half just blind frustration. Ugh. Oh my gosh, Real Madrid totally just came back in the last 20 minutes and overtime of this game against Man City, and they're up 3-0 now. It's insane.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's the UEFA Championship League. That's nuts. I was like, it was the 74th minute, and I'm like, they're losing 1-0 and whatever. Now they're probably going to win. That's sick.
Why is it going so? What was the score when it was in overtime?
1-1.
Oh, it was 1-1. They scored two goals. Oh, and they winning on aggregates now, huh?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
It's a big switch, big change.
I thought you were a Barcelona guy.
Huh. Very, very funny. All right. Well, listen. Today, the news is a little slow. I mean, it's not slow. The things we care about might be a little bit slow. We're coming off a big NFL draft week. We're all tired. We're fatigued from 3 long days of the draft. But hey, there's still stuff going on. NHL playoffs are just kicked off. NBA playoffs are in the second round. Um, I don't really. We could get into that stuff if you want to. My Wild had a heartbreaking loss in their first game against the Blues. I hate the Blues.
I hate the Blues too.
The Blues suck. But it's a long series. I know your Kraken didn't even sniff the playoffs, so you probably don't have much to talk about there.
Yeah, it's a long year. Next year's better.
Not quite like the Vegas Golden Knights. There for
Not the
inaugural
same as
season.
it's okay. Don't worry. One of these days we'll be cracking.
Nice. See, now I'm worried. Is this bar going to be down here the whole time? Everybody's going to see
What
what
bar? I don't see
temperature
a
it
bar.
is.
I don't see a bar.
Oh my gosh. Well, I literally can't do anything with my. I can't touch my. I can't even breathe on my computer, else it just gets all out of whack. So I'm just going to do my best to push through, even though at times I won't be able to see you. At times I'll be able to see everything. It doesn't matter. Anyway, like I was saying, basketball playoffs, they're going on. But I thought today would be a good day to just, you know what, we're going to pull up ESPN and see what the headlines are and just see how things strike us. How does that sound?
It sounds like fun. You know I love ESPN.
Yep, yep, yep. Now I know that I didn't know how frequently they update the headlines there, but since I looked an hour ago, things have already changed. Some of them. So we're just going to pull up what I originally saw. The first one is, and I hope you saw this video. Madison Bumgarner gets ejected from a game against the Marlins after the first inning he pitched. Did you watch that video?
I did watch the video, yeah.
How bananas was that? Okay, so what happens is Bumgarner's pitching. He throws a ball that he thought was going to be a strike out, in fact, and he kind of starts walking off the mound a little bit, but they called it a ball. Okay, whatever. He finishes the inning. He's irritated about it, obviously. He's coming off the mound a little hot. The first base umpire walks over and does, the standard, substance check on the fingers, as he's going into the dugout. And so it's not even the home plate ump. It's the first base ump. And he checks it, and he checks his hand for like, I don't know, 5 seconds. It's 5 to 7 seconds. Now,
Yeah, say so.
Scotty, I know you've been at ball games even as recently as this past weekend. And I'm sure you caught a couple times. The ump literally grabs his hand, touches it, and then lets him go. No big deal. On your way. This guy held on to his hand for like I said, 5 seconds ish. That's a long time. If you go over and hold somebody's hand and count 1, 2, 3, whatever to 5, it's a long time. And then I think the ump said something to Madison, and then Madison said something back, and he ejects him out of the game. Probably something like what the hell's your problem? Or I don't know. I can't read lips. He's got a big beard, but
yeah.
But what'd you think of that whole exchange? He gets tossed. He has to be restrained. His coaches and teammates come out and hold him back. What'd you think of all that? The whole spectacle.
I thought it was a little ridiculous by the umpire. You know what I mean? There was really nothing. It was kind of vindictive, if anything. He's he was trying to just give him a hard time because he was arguing the ball and strike call a little bit earlier or something like that, and then to throw. I mean, he didn't do anything particularly awful. I mean, who knows what he said? But what could you even say to immediately get an ejection on that? You know what I mean? It was kind of ridiculous. I think that umpire was exercising a little bit too much authority there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It was very strange. It seemed very much like a power play from the ump, and I don't even know why. It's what was his was you trying to prove? The only thing I could think that might have been going through the ump's head, one of two things. One is, I really want to get a good look at this guy's hands because he's a vet, maybe knows some more secrets than the young guys do, which I find very unlikely. The other option, or the other thing is, it's he's trying to send some kind of message, hey, don't act like what's better than we know. What is he even trying to prove? It was bizarre to me.
It is bizarre. And what's even crazier about it, is okay, it's the first inning and this is the starting pitcher and a good starting pitcher. That really alters the game from there on out because it's like they have another starter ready to go. You know what I mean? I'm sure they had to, go to the bullpen pretty early and maybe have one of their long relief guys pitch several innings. And that can really jack up the whole series, really. Just because why? Because the umpire's just had a bad day.
Yeah.
Kind of messed up.
I don't know. It was so bizarre. Anyway.
Yeah.
The first base ref's name is Dan Bellino. I feel like his name needs to be out there just in case, he's brought up again. We should know who he is. These umps get away just by wearing the stripes. We don't know their names. Oh yeah.
Well, heck, it wasn't just until this season you didn't even know what their voices sounded like.
That's a good point. I don't really care so much about that, but that's a good point. Next headline, Seahawks Buccaneers set as the first Germany game. So the NFL is getting ready to release their schedule, and I'm sure we're all heavily anticipating that. I think it's on the 20th, something like that. I could have that date wrong.
November 13th.
Sorry, I meant the release of the NFL schedule is on the 20th.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
it's okay.
Like that. Yeah.
And that might not even be the right date, but yes. So Seattle and Germany are going to be playing on November 13th. It's a 9:30 a.m. game in Germany. I can't remember what city in Germany. It might have been Munich. Yeah.
Munich.
This is also in addition to 3 London games. The NFL typically has a couple of London games they've done in the last couple of years. Saints, Vikings, Green Bay Giants, Jags, and Denver. So, all told, Europe's going to be getting Brady, Rodgers, and Wilson. I mean, they're trying to push out some solid. They're not just giving a throwaway, Carolina Falcons or Jags Jets kind of shit that they usually do. This is, it's making moves. So I guess the question I wanted to ask you, if you think about what the NFL's doing now and what their plans may be in the future, what do you see? What does the NFL expansion look like in 20 years?
20 years, wow. Well, geez. I would say, first off, I feel like I feel like the NFL is trying to make up for lost time with COVID. I feel like these types of things probably would have been happening 2 or 3 years ago, but because of COVID and lockdowns, like we couldn't have some of these things, and now they're really expanding. So I think generally it's a good thing because I think the more really more people and the more cultures get involved with the NFL, the bigger the sport's going to be, and it's going to be pretty cool. But it's going to be really hard to, you think about like 20 years from now and having like a team in Europe, like there's a lot of logistics involved that are not easy when you think about what the majority of teams do in just a given week to prepare. Like your practice week, you're going to fly 9 hours and be in a completely different time zone, and then you're going to have a team or maybe a multiple teams that are based out there that will almost always they'll always have to fly back for away games. You know what I mean? To get all messed up there. But even think about like how quickly players can get signed into deals, and like how you have to go to the city for a physical and on all that type of stuff. Like it's like a full day's flight to get someone there to sign somebody. You know what I mean? And having like home offices and scouts, like you're gonna have to have a base in America and a base in your home city to even have normal league functions. It'd be kind of weird, but I think there's going to be a team in London at some point. Maybe it would make sense to have a whole division out there, probably. So you need really 4, but then you're talking about a pretty significant expansion to the NFL. So I don't know. It could be interesting, but there's going to be some challenges along the way. I think we'll be seeing these just games being played out there to kind of build a brand, kind of how like the Premier League and stuff does things in America every now and then, and some European soccer clubs will do that. I think we're going to see that a lot longer than when we're going to actually have teams based out of there.
I think that maybe 20 years is too short of an outlook, but I'm thinking about how are they going to. I'm thinking, do they have plans to, and how could they make the game a global game? You think about soccer, I know they've got like 100 years head start, but maybe it starts with developing a 4-team division out in Europe where they all take trips over to the U.S. and you do like your regional schedules and all that stuff. But maybe it expands out to having a European league, which I know they had at one point. But if it catches on enough and you can actually build it properly with like youth programs and actually having like youth football in Europe, maybe it can become a thing where you have not a World Cup because that's on such a bigger scale, but you have like you have like a regional tournament, and if you come out of your region, you go into an 8-team football playoff. Like you have like the Western NFL, like you have your NFL divisions almost. I'm just like thinking about like what would the longer play, like what would that look like, even if that was a goal or mission of theirs. I'm sure they're happy with what they have in the U.S. now, but I don't know. Maybe it's possible to have something on a more global scale and have those teams actually play each other for like a world championship.
That'd be pretty cool. I for some reason though just feel like it's going to be much harder to do, if not really possible compared to other sports. Because think about like basketball, for example. You'd think that basketball would be pretty easy to set up that type of infrastructure to do that, but it's really not. I mean, it's catching on in tons of areas, like in China and Europe, and but like you still don't have that global like unifying, just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, like you do with the World Cup. And that's basketball. It's easier to get 5 guys to form a team, and you don't have to build these massive stadiums. The if it was going to happen that easily, I think it would have happened already with basketball, and just hasn't just yet. And so football, because of the popularity, they have a longer way to go, I think, to get that big to where they could do something like that. Not that it's impossible, but you would need to do that. And like the biggest thing with the NFL and really any league, when you talk about like multinational expansions, there still needs to be that sense of parity. You know what I mean? Like if there was a league and you set up a division in Europe right now, and maybe there's 8 teams or whatever, all those teams need to be viewed as equally as good as any team in America for it to have that sense of like, oh, their champion plays our champion. That's like the biggest game in the world. You know what I mean? Like they're like if you think of like if they signed a deal tomorrow with the Canadian Football League and like the NFL champion plays the CFL champion, like you wouldn't have a sense that would be really even fair or good because all the best players play in the NFL. At least that's the perception, you know.
Yeah,
So
but what if you had?
that.
But you could have a competitive game if you did maybe not a one-off game with the best players from the U.S. with the best from around like a world's team, like your best CFL players, your best European players, your best whatever players. And you probably have some situations where like someone from Nigeria that's went to a Clemson and played and is played for the Bucks for a couple years, but now they're wherever, or they don't make the U.S. team, they play on that other team. Like you could still field a competitive team with the others, not the others, but like
You could, but you're talking about like an all-star. You're talking about an all-star game situation, which still doesn't have the same, pizzazz as like having a legit European division, for example, that has a champion that plays the American champion. That is like two equal footing, and players can go across to any of those teams in the league. Like that's what you would really need to have. In order
I know, but that's why
legitimate.
I probably would need to start off as being actual and an NFL division in Europe, where those teams are like the starting point for whatever that next league might be. You know what I'm saying?
I honestly think it could be done if the owners in the league was okay with like seriously investing and cutting back in some of their returns, because you'd basically need to have like the profit sharing going on in the European leagues as it gets popular and build up, but still pay players to come all the way out there and do that. You know what I mean? Like the best players need to go out there too. It's not just like, oh, let's just find the coolest Germans and put them on a field and that's a team. Like no, you need to have. They need to be part of the draft, just like all the all the other like do the whole deal. But it's gonna be very expensive to do that. And the owners need to be okay with some short term investment for potential long term gain if it works. You know what I mean? So it's a big risk. I don't know. Something to think about. But overall, I think it's exciting. Also, it stinks if you live on the West Coast, maybe, but I kind of don't mind. Like every now and then, like, oh yeah, there's a football game on at 9:30 in the morning or 7:30 in the morning, and then you keep rocking and rolling all day long with football. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's funny. That's how it is on the West Coast for regular games. For any given Sunday, your 1:00 games are at 10, which is awesome.
For the German games, you have to wake up at 6 a.m. to see your team play, and that's not as fun, I don't think.
My ESPN just refreshed. Real Madrid stunned Man City with incredible comeback to reach UCL final.
Wow. Who do they play in the final?
I don't know. I'm just reading you the headline.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's stick with the NFL and talk some
They'll play Liverpool in the final.
Ooh, my two teams.
Hey, it's like you have to watch that game.
Yeah, games. I'm going to have to. I'm got to go Madrid, but I love me some Liverpool. Dang it. Well, anyway, let's stick in the NFL and talk some Tannehill. So Tannehill recently had a press conference where he was asked about mentoring Malik Willis, the new quarterback they just drafted, who, in many people's opinion, was the best quarterback in this draft, even though he didn't go until like the second or third round. And Tannehill said something along the lines of, and I should be quoting him directly, but whatever. Basically said it's not my job to mentor him. Now listen, we've heard quarterbacks say this before. I think Favre said this about Rodgers. I think Rodgers said this about Jordan Love. Maybe I might have that one wrong. Roethlisberger's definitely said that about other quarterbacks that have joined the Steelers. It's a thing that some guys say. In my opinion, you gain nothing by putting that quote out there. Like, yeah, he might truly believe it. He might be feeling some sort of way about his, job, his security, and his starting role. He might just literally have a philosophical outlook that he doesn't mean what the headline implies. But you should know, enough now. You've heard it enough times that there's no benefit to putting that statement that it's not my job to mentor the guy. That there's no benefit to him. Like, just be a good teammate. Like, he's in the room. Obviously, they're gonna learn from each other. Like, those are the things you say. Like him saying that just gives off insecurity. It causes, even if it's the lightest of drama, it just causes some drama. I just don't understand why any quarterback out there today is even putting that little soundbite out there.
Do you know how that soundbite came about? Like, did someone say, did like the reporter ask him in a press conference, like, hey, do you feel like now, with the Titans drafting Malik Willis, that it's kind of your job to kind of be his mentor?
Tell me why that matters. He says,
well, context does matter in how you say that, because he says, because what he said was, he said, I don't think it, and this is I'm reading this, but I'm reading this with maybe a different interpretation. Maybe this is, I don't know. But he says, it's the question, do you think it's your job to mentor him? He might say in response, I don't know if it's my job to mentor him, but if he learns from me along the way, I think it's a good thing. That's the quote. That's what he said. So you could take that and just say, oh, all right, well, he's bad dude. Why did you put that out there? Why did you even say that? Or it could just be, just reporters doing the reporting thing and causing controversy where there really isn't. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's my general take on it. I will say though, the article that I'm reading here about Tannehill, like, the Bengals messed him up. Bengals messed him up bad. He's talking about how he had to go to therapy after the loss, and he every time he closed his eyes, he kept seeing the Bengals, the Bengals defenders. I'm making that.
I was going to try to get through one episode without mentioning the Browns to the Bengals, and that is over. So the no-hitter is out.
You picked Tannehill.
He has nothing to do with the Bengals. You brought that up.
No, it's in the article that you said we need to read to talk
Obviously,
about.
I didn't read the article. I couldn't answer your quote context thing.
Here's the headline: Tennessee Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill sought therapy after playoff loss. Says it's not his job to mentor rookie Malik Willis. That is a BS headline, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like that is just totally sensational.
That is a double barrel headline.
Yeah, of course people are gonna click on it and be like, oh man, that really messed him up, and but really he's just talking about like, hey, it was a tough loss, worked through it, therapy, talking to people, time helps, I'm getting through it now, and that's a good thing. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, you should be talking about, not making people feel bad about these types of things, but they're going into it on that. I don't know, it's kind of wild. But also, Ryan Tannehill has to be in a crappy position if you really think about it, because number one, they lost, and he had a bad game in the playoffs. He had 3 interceptions. He didn't look good. At the first series, he threw a pick. They draft a quarterback that not in the first round or anything, but they draft a quarterback pretty early, and they traded AJ Brown away. You know what I mean? So who's even going to throw to this year? They don't have Julio Jones. Not that he was that great, but the offense, the Tennessee Titans are in a little bit of a state of transition. You know what I mean? So I feel crappy for Tannehill.
Well, okay, so I don't feel bad for him because I would trade places with him in a second. He makes it seem like he hasn't been a quarterback in the NFL for the last 9 years. Why is he saying that he's literally seeing ghosts? Why is he saying that he's not going to, it's not his job to mentor? I mean, I get the quote. I get the context. It does matter. I care about that. But still, he did say that. It says it's not my job. It's like you gave people the ammunition. It's like quarterbacks should know not to do any of that. But also, the Titans, I'm not afraid to say it, Scotty. This is a full rebuild. It doesn't feel like it, but it absolutely is. I mean, they're trading away big-time assets. They're drafting quarterbacks. I mean, Tannehill's not an old quarterback. He's in his early 30s. I mean, the guy's still playing. I mean, they obviously made him effective with whatever system they're using. But this is rebuild, man.
It is.
The Titans. I mean, the Colts will win the division next year. The Titans will not make the playoffs, and Tannehill will be out. They're going to give Malik a shot after next season, if not halfway through. Who knows what could happen? But this is full rebuild. I believe in Vrabel to do it, but I mean, they're going to go from the number one team in the AFC, number one seed team in the AFC, to out in 1 year.
That's pretty harsh. I mean, I don't completely disagree. I think that I think Tannehill still has some left in the tank. I think he could still be a decent quarterback in the league, but I think that he has peaked. Like, he's not going to achieve any more than he has. You know what I mean? Like,
it's so funny to talk about him as like even peaking, because he's never been a quarterback that you want for your team. You know, like if I said, "Hey, Scotty, Andy Dalton's out." This is before the Burrow draft. Andy Dalton's out. You could take your chance with drafting somebody, or you could have Ryan Tannehill right now. Like Ryan Tannehill's success with Tennessee. You're not taking that. I mean, they've won games.
If I was the bank, depending on the team, if I was the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would take Ryan Tannehill right now, than drafting a young guy.
Well, okay, that's fine, but no, Scotty, nobody here would be happy with Tannehill. Tannehill's not. Tannehill is so similar in terms of success to Andy Dalton, probably even less. And teams don't want Andy Dalton as their starter right now.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying he's dead in the water. I mean, you know, I've been in a place in my Browns fanhood that I would have liked some Tannehill, even if it was like, you know, give me Tannehill for 2 years, we'll stay competitive while we build the rest of the team up. But that's what he is now.
That's what he kind of always has been. The Titans have just been very good, and Tannehill's not like lost in the game until, you know, the playoff game, when he kind of did throw a lot of interceptions and kind of cost him the game a little bit. But I mean, that is his role in the NFL. You know, he's a average starting quarterback who will definitely start for a team that needs somebody, and a team that has a really good roster and a good coach can be successful with Ryan Tannehill, not because of Ryan Tannehill, but, you know, just with him. You know what I mean? If you put him on the Saints right now, I think that the Saints will still be a decent team. You know what I mean? They're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're not going to be even division champions. Do they have a shot to make the playoffs? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
so do the Titans this year.
Let me ask you this. If you're the Saints, would you rather have Tannehill or Jameis Winston?
I think I'd probably have Jameis Winston.
Okay, so why would this? Okay, there you go. If you're the Seahawks, that's a weird situation because they've got Drew Lock, who, come on,
Tannehill is better than anyone on that roster.
Agreed.
Right now, quarterback-wise. So Seahawks would want him.
I'm sorry I don't talk about the Seahawks because of that. What are the Seahawks doing? I have no idea what they're doing. They've got DK Metcalf, one of the best young receivers in the league. They have not invested in a quarterback. They've got Lockett's fast. He's older, but he's a fast guy. And they've got Rashard Penny and Chris Carson, who, like, you know, whatever. I mean, they haven't been great, but it certainly wasn't a need. And they're drafting a running back in the second round, and they didn't even draft a quarterback. Not that there was a great quarterback draft, but you're telling me in the fifth round you couldn't take like Carson Strong or something like that? That's from Nevada, so he's kind of regionally whatever. You're not even going to take a chance on somebody to try to develop somebody?
You know, it's confusing because, like, if Pete Carroll wasn't still the head coach and they were like just legit going full rebuild, I could see the Seattle Seahawks being like, okay, we're just going to draft best players available this draft. We're not going to do great next season. Next year in the draft, there's going to be a lot better quarterbacks who might have the number one pick. Let's just, it's a 3-year rebuild, and this is year 0. You know what I mean? Like, that's the mentality of their actions right now. But it's odd that Pete Carroll's doing that when people are saying, he'll be retiring soon, and unless he's just okay with that, and he's accepted that he's not going to go win the Super Bowl anymore, and his legacy will be setting up Seattle to be successful when he retires. Maybe, I don't know, but like that's their moves indicate that that's what they're doing, but it just doesn't make sense why.
If the trajectory of what we think they're going to be, and given the moves that they didn't make, it's like why aren't even pre-draft? Why aren't you sending Metcalf to the Ravens for a first-round pick and a fifth, or whatever, even just a first, whatever? And you can draft the best available because you got a lot of team needs. And yeah, it's a good receiver, but you're getting something out of him. And you just go full hard in the rebuild. I mean, make Cleveland pay half of Baker's fifth year, take him for a season, see what he can do. Like you can still get some buzz and some energy around the team and still rebuild and still do those things. But they haven't even. I can't even name one good move that they've made that makes me think that they're even setting themselves up for success. I mean, they can still.
Yeah, I think they just want to lose.
Nobody wants to lose.
They just want to
lose. Cool. Anyway, all right, let's talk some hoops, man. Okay, so Memphis versus Golden State, second round of the NBA playoffs. So, game last night, there was Dillon Brooks was ejected from the game after a really bad flagrant foul on a player named Gary Payton for Golden State. Gary Payton was going up for a layup, and Dillon came up from behind, kind of took a hard swipe at the ball, and it looked rough. I mean, it did look rough. It was rough. But in falling to the ground, I've checked their names because I don't really know these players. I just know the story. It's okay. I mean, I'm not embarrassed to say it. I don't watch either of these teams that well. I know the stars of the teams, but anyway, Gary goes down and he fractures his elbow. He's out for the rest of the year. And Steve Kerr's talking after the game, about how, the Grizzlies player broke the code. That he's taking a hard swipe at a guy's head area, a hard fall, and now this player that he's been working with had a bright future, bouncing around a couple teams. He's finally found a landing spot. He's out for the season. This was supposed to be his moment. They're in the playoffs, supposed to make a deep run. And Steve Kerr's talking about this code for flagrant fouls. There's certain things you don't do. So I guess I just wanted to know what you think. It was a BS. I mean, do you think it was obviously a bad foul, but it didn't look like he intended to hurt the guy. I mean, the fall is what hurt his elbow.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't gonna. It didn't look like he was trying to break his elbow or anything. I mean, he definitely. I mean, when you watch it live speed, it looks pretty I bumped into him, But when you watch the replay, he definitely clotheslined him to the back of the head and pushed him down. He clubbed him pretty good. It was worthy of an ejection. Well, he had his fist, and he came down and he hit right here on the back of his head as the guy was in the air. So he
was going for the ball.
He was really far behind to get the ball. He didn't have a chance to get the ball when he did it. It to me it looked like it was definitely a flagrant foul worthy of an ejection, but he wasn't trying to ruin the guy's career. So
I mean, we've seen fouls in basketball with people literally swinging their elbows behind them to make contact with people's faces.
Exactly. It wasn't it wasn't like he. I wouldn't even classify that move as he was trying to really cause any bodily harm. He was just trying to play really hard, and he pushed him a little too hard. You know what I mean? It's basically what happened. So I don't think that he broke any code or anything like that. I think that's a little bit of.
I think Steve Kerr's full of it. I mean, he's got a player, Draymond Green, who's I don't think he's known for being one of the dirtiest players, but he literally missed a finals game because an accumulation of dirty plays throughout the playoffs, and he had to miss a finals game. So like, and he's coaching him this whole time. He's still on the team. So it's like you're gonna talk about a code and these things, and it's happening right under your watch. Like, I don't know, Steve Kerr. Steve. Everybody knows Steve Kerr is a good person. I think he's very well respected, but he's on a high horse. He's got this status, and he knows he's got status, and I don't like.
He wins
that.
a lot.
Well, he does win a lot, but he's got these great players that I don't even think he got those the core of his team, like Clay, Steph, and Draymond. I mean, I don't think he even signed those players originally. He came on like a year after. Okay, we're going into the history books now. I'm not trying to besmirch Steve Kerr's name. I'm just saying some guys have an air about themselves where it's a little bit high and mighty, and I don't care for it. Like Popovich, he's also a guy that states his mind. He doesn't hold anything back, but nobody says, Pop's like arrogant. Like he backs up his guys, and he says whatever the hell he thinks. But there isn't this hoity-toityness about him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
You could be wrong. You've been wrong before.
Nah. All right, last thing, and it's a meaty one, and we're probably not going to be able to talk about this intelligently because what the hell do we know about college football? But I saw a report, some comments from Ohio State athletic director Gene Smith, who's been very, very involved in the college football playoff. I believe he's a part of the review committee, the one that like Condoleezza Rice and tons of other athletic directors around the country are part of to help choose the teams for the college football playoff. So he's very much involved in all of that stuff, and he's very much involved with all of the NIL stuff going on in college sports. He was a part of all the hearings, and he testified in court because of some of the lawsuits they had going on. So he's been around all this stuff for a long time. So he's definitely an authority. He's not just like some guy that like a reporter caught on him on like a mic saying some crazy shit, right? So he carries some credibility with him. But he was talking about there are a lot of shakeups right now with the NCAA and the Big 12 looking for like new leadership, and in those kinds of conversations in that kind of air of what will the future hold for the administrations of those organizations. He was just talking about some things that he's put out there, ideas for restructuring the governance of college football, particularly for the Power 5 programs and the other 5 programs underneath. So he kept saying schools that give out 85 scholarships. Apparently there's a distinction there. I didn't know that, but like FBS and FCS schools. So those conferences. Did you see any of those comments, by the way, before I kind of?
I did, but it's very ambiguous. There's not a lot of detail.
Yeah, what I took away from it is some of the things he was, ideating about was essentially, the college football playoff essentially splitting from the NCAA and starting to enact some of their own rules for like membership and potential NIL stuff, keeping all the academic requirements in place. But for those sets of schools, they would take a more forward approach in terms of setting their own rules for the playoff, especially as they think about expanding the playoff from 4 teams to 8 to 12 to whatever. It's some radical stuff, and I like he was mentioning like NCAA would certainly handle all the Olympic sports and the basketball tournament, all that stuff. Just the highest levels of college football, it already kind of has its own structure now. So just give the people that are running it now more authority to make decisions. So I don't know. What did you think about any of that stuff?
I think that it's probably a good idea to start exploring some of that type of stuff, because I think that it's at least, I mean, the end college football's broken right now, and it's been breaking in a lot of ways for the last 10 years, and the NCAA has proven that they're really not good at quickly reacting to how a lot of the stuff is changing. And I think that having the athletic directors, the conferences, being in a little bit more control over what's going on, some of the decisions about, you know, the NIL stuff, player eligibility, the transfer portal, all these types of things. Like there needs to be some, you know, more controls and governance over this. And I think that the people that are best in position to do it are, the athletic directors, the conference, commissioners, things like that, because there's a lot of money at stake here. And if it gets to be, these situations where, like what we're seeing right now, where, a good example is the Pitt wide receivers entering the transfer portal right now and probably going to go to USC because he's looking at his prospects at Pitt, and his quarterback's left, and his team's not going to be as good, and he's like, oh, cool. Well, I'm just going to spend 1 year playing for a better team now because I had a breakout season, and I'm going to make tons of money. There needs to be lots of rules around how this all works, and the NCAA is not the institution to do it because they just haven't been proven. They have not proven to be effective in being out in front of anything, to adapt to anything, to they're the reason why it's in the state that it's in. So I don't know. I'm kind of for it personally.
Did you hear about the one idea they had about adjusting the transfer portal signups to align with the recruiting schedule? So when you're allowed to first contact players for recruiting, it's like April 15th through May 1st, whatever. Having those dates as the only times where not every player has to enter the portal, but if they were going to enter the portal, that's when they'd do it. Now that doesn't prevent people from talking elsewhere, talking to players here and there, but at least that would be some kind of structure, organization to it. So like you don't get too far ahead of your off season, and all of a sudden half your players leave or whatever. I thought that was an interesting suggestion, but it's going to be an interesting. Yeah. I mean, who knows how this stuff's going to play out? I mean, I don't. It's a very broad topic that I think requires some thought. None of that I've given a lot of thought to, so maybe I shouldn't speak to it. But I think ultimately it's all a good thing because players are getting a little more than what they had. But I do think it's going to feel yucky for a little while. It's going to feel gross. I mean, you have all these. You already had the coaches that can just like slip away and all slimy and greasy and go to these better situations for themselves, make millions of dollars. But I think there are going to be a lot of upset fans for a while, especially those that aren't following any of this stuff. Like I'm thinking about some family friends that we have that, or even family members that don't really know the ins and outs of it, and don't maybe necessarily agree that the player should be getting paid at all, and they're just going to see a player just going for $1 million. So it's basically the pros, and it's going to turn a ton of people away. If it hasn't already, it's going to turn a ton of people away from the sport, which I think is a bad thing.
Yeah,
because without fans, you don't have sports.
Yeah, that's the risk that college football runs into right now. Is that if this gets out of control before they can get a handle on it, then the money will be gone. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of money that's involved right now, but if people start losing interest because of just the parity that we're seeing at the top levels, if some of those traditionally decent schools start to be not good anymore because, people are transferring out for lots of money. If it just seems like corrupt and not really fair anymore, people are going to lose interest. And guess what? That money's going to dry up and there won't be a whole lot left, and it'll be pretty sad, and because college football used to be arguably even cooler than the NFL. You know what I mean? The way it all worked with the Cinderella stories and these, young teams that just like surprise some of the giants. Like, you're seeing that less and less now, and it's not heading in a good direction. So hopefully they can get something figured out and make this a little bit more, a little more fun to watch, because I don't know, right now it's not that great.
Every time I think about college football and money and going pro and all that stuff, I always just go back to my regionally based like program tie-ins with NFL teams. I don't know why I keep doing that, but it's like if you take the top 32 college football programs, don't change a thing about them, except that if you go to one of those schools, you are directly tied to a designated NFL team within your region. And players from that school can maybe still opt into the draft and go elsewhere, but every other player that doesn't, or whatever, you have a direct line, you have maybe communication with the NFL program, you have access to the facility, you should generate relationships early on. So even players that aren't the top end guys still have some exposure to some of these people. You take those 32 teams, have it all sorted that way, and the rest of the college football just continues being college football. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that sounds weird because you have like University of Texas feeding into Houston, the Texans, and they're out of college football, but those 32 teams will play each other. Like and that people would love that league. It's almost like a super league of college football.
So yeah, it's a hybrid between college football and a minor league for the NFL.
Right.
Basically, what you're saying. I mean, that's kind of what it is already, except for the direct ties. That'd be the only difference. But yeah, I mean, heck, might as well do that at this point. It's slowly becoming that kind of. So
I mean, in that way, I mean, think about the players that are going to get big NIL money. I mean, okay, there's on a college football team, there's like 110 players. Over 30, you're telling me that there are more than 3,000 college football players right now that are good enough to get significant NIL money? There's no way.
Yeah.
So you take all those players will go to this hybrid league, and college football will still exist as it was. Yeah, Ohio State won't play Indiana. Okay, but they'll be playing Texas, and they'll be playing USC, and then they'll still have your big games. Indiana fans will still get up for Indiana versus Minnesota or whatever it is. They still have it. I mean, this will obviously it's not even worth saying that it'll never happen because it will never happen.
The only question I want to know in this model, who does Ohio State line up to in your mind?
Well, maybe we should do this for a show. We should map out. We should see what those top programs are, because it's gonna get after the top 10, it's gonna get a little dicey. You know what I'm saying? But obviously the Browns, and then Cincinnati can have whatever Kentucky team they want. The Cincinnati airport is in Kentucky.
Yeah,
I mean, what's going on here?
They needed somewhere flat to land the planes.
Yeah. All right, that's it. That's all I got. What do you want to add? Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Ask me anything, Scotty. Ask me anything. Ask me something.
Anything? Something.
Yeah, whatever.
I can't see the pendant on your chain. What kind of necklace is that?
It's a religious necklace.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
You couldn't just let the look be the look, Well,
I was trying to guess what your look was.
I thought you were gonna ask me something about like sports.
Oh, sport? You said anything. I took that to be anything I wanted to.
Yeah, I assumed.
Are you starting to get excited about Deshaun Watson being your quarterback now?
That is not the right word. That's not the right word at all. I don't think I could ever use the word excitement about that one player. I don't think I can use that word. Am I excited about drafting Jerome Ford in the 4th round? Yeah, I am.
Solid.
It's a good pick.
That's good.
I don't know about the Purdue wide receiver. I'm still hoping they bring Jarvis back, but Deshaun, I'm seeing pictures of him.
They could bring Jarvis and Odell back.
No way. Yeah, what's going to happen with them? They're like both holding out for some perfect scenario.
Odell, I think teams are waiting for his injury to see how he's recovering from that.
Oh, come on. He's come back from injuries before. He'll be fine. It's modern sports medicine. Players return from that stuff all the time. But fair enough.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it is weird that they're kind of out there, and Julio Jones is still out there too.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple other defensive players that are. Oh well, Lattimore just got signed by the Saints. That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Not Lattimore. Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Matthew.
Tyrann
Matthew.
Matthew. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Man, it's such a bummer that he doesn't like being called the Honey Badger. It's such a good nickname, man.
It's a good nickname, and it fits him a lot. They nailed it when they called him that to begin with, and I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe he got that reputation from being like really feisty and like aggressive in college, but he like turned
Yeah.
a new leaf and it's like, you know what? I don't see myself as that anymore. I'm more even keel. I've got more handle on my emotions. I've something that he's been working on. He doesn't want to be known as that. He wants to shed that rep.
Well, good for him. Let's see what happens.
I'm pissed because the Wild and the Blues play game 2 tonight at 9:30, and I've got a kickball game that starts at 9:30.
Ooh,
It's like, what the hell are
that's
they?
rough.
It's the latest that they start these games, and it's in
Are they
Oakland,
down?
which is
Are they
far
down
away.
0-1 right now?
They're 0-1, yeah. I mean, it's a long. They gotta win. They gotta win tonight. If they don't win tonight, it's over because they started at home. You can't go down 0-2. You know, your 2 home games. I mean, they're not. It's what's so frustrating about this matchup is that these two teams are the hottest teams coming into the playoffs. The Wild are in the last since like some early date in March. They're 16, 2 and 5 or something like that. That's really good.
It's really good.
The Blues are like
Yeah.
14, 4 and 2. Like that's really good.
Good too.
And it's like these are two teams that could both make a deep run, but they have to, of course, have to play each other and like beat the hell out of each other.
That does suck. That is very true.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's kind of a bummer. And then the winner will play what? Colorado and Nashville winner.
Which is a whole other thing. Like at least if you lose to Colorado, it's like okay, they're far and away the number one team in the league. Everybody's choosing them to win. So at least
Yeah.
you can still, as long as you play them tough and don't get blown the hell out. You can still hold your head up high and go to bed, rest easy. But
True.
it's to lose to the freaking Blues. Ugh. And everybody's saying like, oh, they're comparing it to like the run that the Blues had in 2019, which is like they were like a here and there, up and down team all throughout the season. Nobody really quite knew how good they were, and then they hit it. The last month, they like were lights out, and they just skyrocketed and won the cup. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen again. But I guess let me ask you this: if you're gonna lose in the playoffs, do you want to lose to the team that eventually wins it all? Or do you really
No.
not even care?
You don't care. It doesn't. It does me no good or a difference knowing that. In fact, it hurts worse knowing that in 2011 the Philadelphia Phillies lost to the St. Louis Cardinals, who went on to win the World Series. That doesn't help me at all. In fact, it pisses me off more knowing that if we beat them, we probably could have won the World Series. You know what I mean? So, nah, it doesn't help.
No. Think Tom Brady cares
Bengals,
about losing to the Rams last playoffs?
no, I can tell you, Joe Burrow doesn't care about losing to the Rams in the playoffs.
It's different. That's
Not
the
much.
final game. It's like you're not in the final game. You're on your way to the final game. But yeah, you've answered. It's good. It's cool.
It was up. We were up till midnight watching the Penguins. They went into third overtime.
Oh my
The
god.
game lasted forever. It
Yeah,
just took forever.
Katie. It's a good win, but Katie might be a little bit disappointed because the Rangers have had the Penguins' number historically, especially this season.
Hey, we got. I know. I trust me. She was expecting. Not expecting necessarily to come out of this, but getting a big road win in triple overtime in game one. That's a good win. I mean, they'll have 3 home games now to see what happens. So at least. So I don't know. We'll see.
I do trust you. Okay,
Nice.
I'm gonna go.
Thanks. All right.
Bye.
Talk to you later, man.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. So if you've listened this far, you must, for some reason, like what you've heard. So, given that, please remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at ObsessionCast for all future episode updates and whatever else we might post, sports related or otherwise. Thanks for watching.